There's a big reason why stretching isn't helping you stay feeling loose. And on this week's episode of the Exercises Health Podcast is exactly what we want to discuss. We're going to cue our introduction and dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercises Health Podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we are discussing the topic of stretching, and specifically why stretching isn't helping you to stay feeling loose. We want to let you know that if what we're discussing today is of interest to you, is something that you're ready to start taking action on, that's exactly what we can help you do at our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg, where we specialize in muscle activation techniques. So all you need to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to our website, www.matschaumburg.com. Click the big green button that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. So this topic of stretching is something that we've discussed quite a bit on this podcast. It's been a while since we've spoken about it specifically, but today we want to take the approach or look at the idea of why it isn't actually helping you to stay feeling loose. Now, it may help create the feeling of looseness, but oftentimes this is just a very temporary feeling, meaning like you might stretch in the morning and you feel loose for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe an hour or so, but at some point during the day, you feel like your body starts tightening up again. Or maybe you get some relief for the entire day, but then by the next morning, you feel like your body has tightened up again. Whatever it is, the effects of stretching, while they may be there in the moment, more times than not, they are very temporary. And so because of that, you find that you are needing to stretch over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Now, if that hasn't been your experience, then whatever. You can disregard what we're going to say. If you're like, no, that's not me, okay, fine, then skip this episode. But if that is you, which is what we find to be the case with so many people, then listen up, because there is a really big reason why this is happening, and that's what we want to talk with you about today.
That's right. Here's the thing. Your body does everything with intention. Like, your body doesn't accidentally wake up tight. Your body doesn't accidentally tighten up your hamstrings one day for no reason. There's a reason behind every time your body creates tightness, and that's because our muscles are told what to do by the brain and nervous system. And so if your muscles are creating tension that you call tight and is uncomfortable to you, your brain and nervous system has put it there for a really good reason. So every time you are feeling tight, you have to remember your body wants it to be tight. And the reason why people stretch over and over and over and over again, and it becomes this relentless thing, and it's oftentimes a very temporary thing, is because even if you're able to change your tightness feeling, which many people can't even get to that point, but if you are able to, you're probably going to notice it comes back pretty quickly. And that's because, remember, your body wants the tightness to be there. So you want to think of it as, given the situation my body currently is, the status of my body, the state of my body right at this moment, my body wants that muscle, that hamstring, that shoulder blade muscle, whatever muscle you have, that back muscle, to be really tight. And the only way that you're going to change that is if you change the state or the status of your body, not by just trying to release or stretch a muscle.
Exactly, because that's really the take-home point, is your body keeps tightening up because your body wants to be tight. Now, you might hear that and be like, oh, that's not fair. Oh, that's not right. Oh, this is a bummer. Like, I don't want to feel tight. And don't get me wrong. Like, I get where you're coming from. Like, it's not comfortable being tight, but it doesn't change the fact that that is still what your body deems as most appropriate for yourself at that moment. Okay. And so you can either complain about it or you can do something about it. And we're here to help you do the latter, which is to do something about it. We're not here to help you complain about it, although that may be a specialty of ours at some point. But today, our specialty is helping you to do something about it, okay? And so the question is, why? Why does it keep tightening up, all right? And because we need to move beyond the idea of just simply addressing the symptom of, hey, I'm tight, and start to dig deeper as to why we keep tightening up. And more times than not, the very simple explanation for why your body keeps tightening up is because it's perceiving some type of threat, okay? And that is its current best solution to dealing with that threat. Now, that threat doesn't necessarily need to be real, it just needs to be perceived. For example, have you ever had like a really stressful conversation with somebody, like emotionally really tense? Well, what does your body do? It tightens up. Like you don't go into that conversation and just be like, oh, I just feel so relaxed during this. Like your body tightens up because it's perceiving some kind of threat, some kind of stress, okay? Now, another threat to it may be what's happening internally at your joints and with your neuromuscular system, where your body is perceiving some kind of lack of stability or lack of support around certain joints. And so in response to that, your body tightens up. An example that we often talk about is this idea of walking on ice, okay? If you've ever been walking down the sidewalk in the middle of winter and you are on dry pavement and everything is good, and then you step on ice, you know immediately your body tightens up. And it's not because you ate the wrong foods or you worked out weird or you didn't sleep well or anything like that. It's because your body in that instance detects the threat of, wow, I'm about to slip and fall and crack my skull open. So in order to do that, I need to limit my range of motion in order to keep my body balanced. And the easiest and fastest way to know how to do that is to tighten up. So if there's a lack of stability or a lack of support, that often is the end result where your body tightens up.
You're right, Charlie. One of the biggest reasons why your body tightens up is a perceived threat. And a lot of the times when we see people that have chronic tightness or areas that keep tightening up, one of the big things that we see around that joint or in that area or assisting that area is that there are some muscles that are working really well and some muscles that are really not working well. And when we see this discrepancy in strength, we call that compensation. We call that like there's, some muscles are really pulling their weight and maybe even pulling their weight even more than they should. And some muscles are really not strong at all. They're not doing a very good job. And so we see a lot of tightness around this because there are some really overworking muscles, and those weak muscles are a serious threat to that joint and to that area. And so of course your body wants to tighten up and protect because there's those weak muscles present. Another big one that we see is when people get injured or you have a surgery or an area that is of high inflammation, maybe a bulging disc that keeps keeping an area very inflamed. We often see that when there's inflammation in an area because of any type of reason, then your body's going to protect in that area. Your body can sense, hey, something's not going right here. We have some chronic inflammation. It keeps returning. The situation is still at this place of we need inflammation to heal this area. And so we're going to tighten muscles to protect it. Without the tight muscles, then the body's at risk of doing some crazy movements or too far of movements, and your body's perceiving, hey, this area needs time to rest, it needs time to heal, and so let's make sure that this body can't move this area very well. And what we'll do is tighten muscles. So tightening muscles is, although it's annoying, it's always intentional. It's always there to protect you, whether it's because there's a weakness that we need to start strengthening in exercise or start addressing in other ways like using MAT. Or it might be, hey, we've injured an area. We have an area of chronic stress. We have an area that is post-surgery. Whatever the reason is, a lot of times when you have chronic inflammation, your body will set up tight muscles around it to make sure that area stays really protected.
Exactly. So this is by no means an exhaustive list of, why your body tightens up, but it's some of the more common reasons that we see why people's bodies tighten up. And the bottom line with it is that if you are only looking at the tight stuff without looking at the reason, or the perceived reason at least, the perceived threat, as to why the tightness is there, then the tightness will just keep coming back. And so the big question you need to kind of explore for yourself is like, all right, what is this perceived threat that my body is sensing, and thereby causing me to tighten up? Now, what we see a lot from the kind of orthopedic, physical, neuromuscular perspective is it is a breakdown in communication between the brain and the muscles, where they're more or less like the brain is not talking to the muscles as well as it could, and the muscles aren't receiving that communication, nor are they communicating back to the brain as well as they could. When there is that breakdown in communication, when there's that breakdown in talk between the brain and the muscles, your brain has to kind of freak out in a sense and start to figure out how to compensate for not being able to speak directly to the muscles at once. And so it starts to use other muscles to compensate for those ones that aren't able to, receive the communication or communicate back as well as they should. And that's a lot of times when we start to feel muscles getting overworked. That's when we start to feel muscles really starting to tighten up. And there's a very kind of direct neurological pathways as to how this happens. When muscles aren't contracting well, other muscles will tighten up in response to that. And so what we often see is when we just try to focus on stretching the tight muscles, while yes, we can create some short-term relief or short-term feelings of looseness, unless that kind of underlying reason, that perceived threat of like, oh my gosh, the brain can't talk to these muscles, or it's not getting signal back from those muscles well enough, that those communication pathways have been disrupted for whatever reason, then we see that the tightness returns sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so the big takeaway that we want you guys to know is that if you're stretching, realize that likely it's not working for you because it is a symptom reliever, right? And symptom relievers are temporary. Sometimes that means 30 minutes, sometimes that means half a day. I don't know how long it is for you, or sometimes, you feel no change. But in the end, that symptom of tightness is there for a reason, and it is our goal to change that reason by changing the situation of strength in your body. So some of the biggest things you can be doing to start changing your situation is there are two big things you should be thinking about. Number one is you got to be doing balanced strength training. Remember, one of those reasons we brought up that you are feeling tightness is that there's like an imbalance in muscle strength. Well, a lot of people don't do full body, well-balanced strength training. And so of course, there's going to be some muscle imbalances, right? Like some people will do squats, but they never work their hip adductors. So then there's an imbalance between some of the hip extensors and the hip adductors. Or some people will do biceps, but never work triceps. And so then there's an imbalance between those upper body muscles. So the first line that you should always be doing by yourself or with a trainer or however you like to do it is to make sure that you're doing full body strength training. Because as much as you want to be providing a positive stimulus to your body regularly to challenge all the muscle groups of your body. That's like the first line of defense that you should be doing all the time.
Exactly. And it's really remarkable how much that can change when you just start doing strength training and just start challenging each individual group of muscles on a regular basis, and how much that can help with the feelings of tightness. So just like, oh, wow, yeah, like I feel these muscles squeezing, I feel these muscles squeezing, and now those feelings of tightness that I once had, they are way calmed down, or they're not there at all anymore. The second thing that we recommend everybody doing across the board is muscle activation techniques. And the reason why is because if, strength training is going to be more of a general approach to, getting your muscles contracting and feeling your muscles squeeze, MAT is going to be a much more detailed approach, kind of going through your system more or less with a fine-tooth comb and really figuring out which individual muscles themselves have this breakdown in communication between them and the brain, and as such are causing other muscles to have to tighten up, causing other muscles to have to overwork, causing this compensation throughout your system, even in multiple areas of your body, even if it's just one area of your body that's tightening up. And so with the muscle activation techniques process, not only are we able to identify specifically which groups of muscles aren't working well, we're able to address those muscles individually one by one and really reinstate their ability to contract, reinstate that communication between them and your brain, which as a result helps the tightness that you're feeling really calm down, because your body is no longer perceiving that threat of, oh wow, I can't access these muscles, I can't communicate with these muscles, I have to figure out other muscles to compensate with. And really from a tightness relief perspective, to me, it's the most powerful thing out there that I personally have ever experienced. And I was somebody that spent, at least 45 minutes to an hour every single day stretching, 20 to 30 minutes every single day foam rolling. And there's really been nothing that, comes close to the effectiveness of muscle activation techniques in terms of relieving tightness.
That's totally right. So in the end, we want to see, hey, you're using muscle activation techniques to make sure that all muscles are able to fire properly, to get signal from your brain, and to work properly. And then again, regularly challenging these things in the gym. So if you're currently doing MAT, but you're not exercising regularly and challenging and conditioning your muscles regularly, you're going to notice that next level of feeling strong, feeling mobile, feeling flexible from adding in good strength training. And if you're currently strength training and you're noticing, hey, some of these motions still create some tightness, that's definitely highlighting the fact that you have a neurological deficiency where you need to get it on the table with MAT, make sure your muscles are able to even receive signal, and then that'll really highlight those workouts again. You'll be feeling so much more balanced. You won't be getting those negative side effects of like, oh, I'm just sore after, or my neck's super tight after, or whatever that tight feeling is afterwards, because this powerful combination of doing muscle activation techniques and regular total body strength training is what really creates a state change in your body. Remember, the tightness is a symptom of where your body's at. And if you change the state of your body, that's how you will have long-term changes in the sensations of tightness in your body.
Exactly. So if you'd like our guidance and our help doing this, is exactly what we can help you do at our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg, where we specialize in muscle activation techniques. So all you need to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to our website, www.matschaumburg.com. Click the big green button there that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. If you are watching us on YouTube, whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we always appreciate your time and attention every single week. Share this episode with somebody that feels like they just have to keep coming back to stretching because their body keeps tightening up. They never reach that place of looseness, just feeling loose, like consistently loose. It's like loosen then tight, loosen then tight, loosen then tight. Share this episode with them so they can gain some insight on what may be going on with their system as far as why they need to keep coming back to stretching time and time and time again. If you wouldn't mind, leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you consume our content on. It always means the world to us when you do that. Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in. We are wishing you a wonderful week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.